In the geometry step, we will define the domain over which we want Fluent to solve the governing equations, and the domain is shown over here schematically, and we want to simulate the flow around the corner, and we have to put the outer boundaries far enough away. And these are some choices that were made in the tutorial originally by a teaching assistant, and I'm going to change these dimensions a little bit. One can round them off. And so I will go to the first, let's draw this line in SpaceClaim. So I'll get Fluent in. You might have already done that. Give it a name, and then right click on Geometry, Properties, and set the analysis type to 2D. Okay, and that's very important to do right at the start. You cannot switch from 2D to 3D or 3D to 2D halfway through. And then right click on Geometry, New SpaceClaim Geometry. It takes about a minute or so for SpaceClaim to come up. And so I will go into the sketching mode. So I'll say select new sketch plane and move the cursor to the upper right. So it's like I'm selecting the back plane. Click on it, and then if you say plan view, make sure you're looking at the XY plane. Now in 2D, all the domain or the geometry has to be in the XY plane. And I will switch my units to meters rather than millimeters. So I'll say File, SpaceClaim Options, Units, Length, I will say meters. And I'll say minor grid spacing 0.01. And then I will draw a line. So I'll say line, and then I'll come here and I should see snapping to curve center. That'll make sure that the left point of that line, the left vertex starts at the origin. And then this length, you can hit the space bar and then enter the length. And I will, to get out of the sketch mode, I'll say escape, escape. Okay, so I'm out of the sketch mode, maybe 3 escapes. Let me go back to the figure. Let me go and draw this line, and I will round this off to 1.3. It could even be 1.5, but to keep it consistent with the previous version of the geometry step in the tutorial, I will round that off to 1.3. So I will go again, I'll say line, snapping to endpoint, start over there, and make sure you're getting the 90 degrees, hit the space bar, and enter 1.3. Okay, and you can hold down the control key and the middle mouse button and translate the geometry, and using the middle mouse wheel you can also zoom in. And then this at the top, I will draw another line starting at this point, and then making sure I get the 90 degrees space bar and enter 1.5. Okay, and then I can say, let me escape for now, and let me kind of center this. Now if I go back to the figure, let's draw this, and this angle is 15 degrees as given in the problem statement over here. The half angle is 15 degrees. So let's do that. So I will say line again. I'll start here, snapping to endpoint again over here. I'll start, and you see that the green dot indicates I'm starting there. And then if that half angle is 15 degrees, the angle it's showing me has to be 180 minus 15, which is 165. So make sure you get 165, and you also want it to be aligned to this endpoint here. Okay, so I'll say 165, and you see at the top right, you see that 90-degree symbol. So make sure you're getting that, and then you can go and complete the curve, and then come out of the sketching mode. And then if you go to the 3D mode, it creates a surface. You'll notice that it goes from curves to surface. So if I undo using Control Z, I see I had curves, and then if I redo using Control Y, you see I have the surface. That's all there is to define the domain in the geometry steps. So I will exit SpaceClaim, and I will save the project. So I'll say File, Save, put it in a suitable folder. I'll call this Wedge. And if I come to the downloads folder, I'll see I have this WBPJ and I have an associated folder. This backup will go away when I exit Ansys, so make sure you save and you exit. And so, to resume your project, you need not only this file, but you also need this folder.